Yeah, it's important really every week. You want to start fast in all phases of your team. And, kickoff return sets the tone. And then whatever unit's out there first, defensively, you'd love to get a 3 and out. Offensively, you want to drive the ball and score points. You want to get ahead. But the nature of the National Football League is that's not always going to happen. So you got to keep battling, whatever the circumstances are. You got to keep playing and ultimately have success over the course of 60 minutes. I think he's done a really nice job. We put him out there by himself a lot in man coverage and in zone coverage, and I think he's handled that work really well. You see him make a number of plays on the ball. They've tried him a lot of different ways, short, intermediate, deep, and he consistently comes up with the play. And very competitive guy. You saw that in the game the other day. The PBUs right to the end of the down, knocking the ball out. And he'll get better and better the more he plays there. You've heard me say this many times. He has experience playing corner in college and experience playing safety in college. We've asked him to do both. He's been able to handle the work up to this point in his career really well, and we feel like it's a good fit for him to go back there, and I think he's off to a good start. You're always trying to sort out how you want to play guys. We are going to play different guys, receiver by committee, if you will. That's been something that we thought was a good thing for our team. But having said that, as you go, you certainly want to get locked in on some guys at positions and what we're asking them to do. So that's a process that we'll continue to go through at that position and really throughout our team. Probably a combination of things. There were a couple opportunities that we had where we had good coverage and we didn't make the play. And there were a couple good returns early on against us in Carolina. I think in some ways, last year, one of the reasons there were so few return yards is there were so few return opportunities. And, getting back to minimizing those opportunities with our flyer play and where we're punting the ball and forcing them to fair catch the ball, I think that is probably the best way to minimize return yards. And then we just got to do a better job tackling. So we do have some young guys, but they got to learn fast. That's going to be their role in the team.
Hello, friends, and welcome into the Cowboys Report presented by BetDSI, the Internet's #1 sportsbook. We'll start things off with some Cowboys rumors. First up, did Dallas try to poach Brian Price and bring him back to the roster? Well, 4 stars on this one. The Packers also tried the same thing. Price currently on the Browns practice squad. Dallas tried to grab him. Again, they tried to bring him back after they cut him originally as well. So this is the second time they've tried to reacquire Brian Price. Both times have been rejected. One by the Raiders, who claimed Price, and this time by Price himself, who instead took a significant pay jump to stay on the Browns practice squad, hanging out there with about what you would make if you were the 53-man on the NFL roster. So as for why the Cowboys are trying to do this and why they brought back Karan Reed, well, Antoine Woods, he's now banged up. Malik Collins is banged up as well. One or both of those guys might not be able to play in week 4 of the NFL season against the Detroit Lions. So the defensive line's a bit banged up, hence the interest in Price and why they re-signed Karan Reed as well. All right, next up is Byron Jones, the best cornerback in the NFL. I hope so. I think that would be great. I'm only going to give it the 1 star, though. Comes to us from Pro Football Focus, who has Jones graded as the #1 guy. So from that perspective, it's kind of true. But at the same time, who are you going to take? Jalen Ramsey or Byron Jones? Patrick Peterson or Byron Jones? I love Byron. I'm glad he's finally down there at cornerback. And he's been good. He's been great, frankly. He's shut down pretty much every receiver he's faced this year. But he's not the single best corner in the NFL, even though he's been graded out very well by myself, by Pro Football Focus, and of course by the Cowboys themselves as well. Folks, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet and sign up with the Internet's #1 sportsbook. Put down $100, and if you use promo code Cowboys120, they'll give you $120 for free for a grand total of $220 to bet with on BetDSI. Thanks to that sweet 120% deposit bonus. That's chatsports.com/bet. Promo code is Cowboys120. All right, time for some Tony Romo talk, because of course we have some. Is he going to be in the Ring of Honor? Kind of a no-brainer, right? This is 4 stars for me, and I think the majority of Cowboys fans out there. Jerry Jones has said that Tony will be in the Ring of Honor, and once Jerry says that, it's a done deal. It's going to happen. By the way, put Tony and Whitman together at the same time. That's the best way to go about doing that one there. Don't worry about who gets in first. Put them in together side by side as the next 2 guys in that Ring of Honor, with some others coming down the line as well. As for Romo right now, is he healthy enough to actually play football? Well, that's what Tony says, and I love you, Romo, but are you? I'm going to give it the 2 stars here, because I am sure Romo thinks he's healthy enough to play, and I think he's healthy enough to go play for a week. My concern is that what happens when Tony gets hit again? Yeah, I love Romo, always will. Don't think he'd be able to stay healthy enough for a full season, and I already saw these comments on Twitter and before the show, and I see them right now in the comments section, so we'll bring it up anyway. Would you want Romo back on the Cowboys? I'm sure many of you guys say yes because you've seen how Dak Prescott has fared this year and has not been very pretty. And it'd be great if you had a healthy Tony for all 16 games. He's not going to be healthy for all 16 games. There's just no way his body at this point, I think, can withstand it. He couldn't do it a couple seasons ago. How could he do it now? All right, folks, we do have some Cowboys t-shirts and hats to still give away. So DM me on Twitter if you want the details at WhatGoingDowney. A couple t-shirts, couple hats. They are courtesy of one of our sponsors, so you do have to get signed up with them. But we still got some to give away. Once we get to 20, well, one of you lucky people out there will get Cowboys tickets as well. So DM me on Twitter, again, at WhatGoingDowney, if you want those details. 2 more rumors to get to here. How about Rishard Matthews and the Cowboys? I'm kind of surprised we didn't get this for tomorrow's mailbag, but we did get quite a few anyway with Matthews because it makes sense, right? A receiver gets cut, and all Cowboys Nation wants him, right? I'm only going to give it the 1 star, though. Field Yates said it made sense for the Cowboys, and, you know, on one hand it does because the Cowboys receiving core has been pretty bad. I don't know, however, if Rishard Matthews is the solution. I don't think he's the answer to the Cowboys' woes at wide receiver. So, yes, there's a need for help. Knowing the Cowboys front office, though, I doubt they even want to bring in Rishard Matthews because who are they going to cut? They seem to like their guys for whatever reason. You know, Cole Beasley is a good slot guy. Hurns, we'll talk more about him in a second. Thompson has actually been okay. T-Will's been, frankly, not good at all. I don't even know why he's on the roster still, beyond the fact that they can't cut him to save any money. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more Bryce Butler going forward either. So while I don't mind the talent of Rishard Matthews, and if this was in the offseason, I wouldn't mind signing him, I don't know if it makes the most sense right now. And by the way, the Cowboys already have a tough time spreading the ball around as it is and giving it to all their receivers. I don't think Matthews is going to like that, given he just had the same problem in Tennessee. Folks, if you like this awesome shirt I'm wearing, get one of your own at Mizzen and Main. Go to comfortable.af to get your own incredibly comfortable Mizzen and Main shirt. They're made in America. It's perfect for the fans of America's team. All right, next up on our Rumors Roundup, does Allen Hurns need more targets? Again, kind of hinted at this with Rishard Matthews. Probably 3 stars here because the Cowboys brought in Hurns, and at first it was he's going to be the number 2 with Dez Bryant. And then, oh, well, Dez is gone. He's going to be the number 1 guy. And now he's got 9 targets in 3 games for 4 catches and 51 yards. Ew. And by the way, the Cowboys' target leaders are a mess in general. There's Zeke leading the way at 18, then Cole Beasley, then Thompson, then friggin' Jeff Swaim is 4th with 11, and then it's Allen Hurns there at 9. So Hurns probably does need more targets. I'll give it the 3, not the 4, because at a certain point, he does have to do a little more with the targets that he's been getting. Not all his fault, of course. Dak has not been as good as he needs to be, but hopefully Hurns can get going soon because Cowboys brought him in to be at least one of the better receivers. Right now, he's barely even one of the top 5 if you want to include Zeke and Jeff Swaim. All right, folks, once again, I am Tom Downey. Go follow me on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney for more Cowboys coverage. Send me any questions you guys have as well. I know the big thing that you all are still talking about, and I don't blame you because I'm kind of the same boat there. Jason Garrett and his status going forward this year and if he should be fired or not. I'll tell you one thing. Garrett is undoubtedly on the hot seat. We're not even putting that with the rumor scale because it's like an 8. He is on the hot seat. And I don't care what Jerry Jones said at the beginning of the year. We all have eyes. We know that Jason Garrett is on the hot seat right now. And every loss increases the chance that he gets fired at the end of the year, if not beforehand. So I know you guys love this question. Type F for fire, type K for keep. What to do with Jason Garrett? I think the reality is you're almost stuck with him for the rest of the year because if you fire Garrett, then you're firing Scott Linehan as well. And yes, you make Chris Richard, in all likelihood, the interim head coach. Who runs your offense? Is it Sanjay Lal? Is it Kellen Moore, who I know a lot of you guys don't like? I think that's kind of why you're stuck with Garrett. Frankly, he should be calling the plays right now with Scott Linehan. But BetDSI, they've got the odds on if Garrett will be the Cowboys head coach in 2019. no surprise here. The odds here are that no, he is not. So I think it's a good bet there to bet no. So I've already gone to chatsports.com/bet. I have used promo code Cowboys120. I've got my 120% deposit bonus, and I put $10 down on Jason Garrett not being the head coach in 2019. Because as of right now, I think those odds are a little bit too much in favor of Garrett because it does not look good for Garrett. So we're going to take a look now at 10 coaches that at the end of the year, i.e. not the interim coach, that could be candidates for the Cowboys and guys that Jerry Jones and co. might pursue. First up, 4 names that I swear we're going to see in the comment section, and it's not going to happen. Stop talking about it. Tony Romo, Troy Aikman, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells. I saw all 4 of these names on Tuesday's show. Stop it. It doesn't make sense. Jimmy Johnson has been out of the NFL for years now. Same with Bill Parcells. Aikman and Romo have never been coaches. If you want them to be your quarterback's coach, cool, sign me up for that. Why would you want them to be your play caller head coach with literally 0 experience? It just doesn't make sense. So I'm sorry, guys. Those 4, they are not getting hired as the next Cowboys head coach. Folks, go ahead and subscribe to our brand new Cowboys Report YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Dallas Cowboys Report. We're trying to get to that 5K subscribers mark, so let's get there, all right? All of our great Cowboys coverage all in one spot. Really do appreciate all of you who have subscribed or are going to. Hint, hint. All right, on to some potential coaches in 2019, and we'll start from the least likely on the way down to some of the more likely options. Dan Campbell is a guy I could see getting interviewed, but end up not being hired by the Cowboys. Now, he did interview for the Colts job after Josh McDaniels did them dirty, and he's played for the Cowboys as well. That's worth listening to and investigating. Now, has never been a play caller in his coaching career, but he was, however, the Dolphins interim coach for a little bit. Went 5-7 back in 2015. Is currently working for the Saints. Also holds the assistant head coach title. So he's a little bit more than just a tight ends coach. There's some good leadership there. Doesn't really fulfill what I'm looking for. Number one, that's a good offensive mind. He's a good coach, but I don't know if he's the right fit for the Cowboys. How about some defensive guys? How about James Bettcher? Now, Bettcher was the guy that Bruce Arians wanted Arizona to hire once Arians retired from the Cardinals. Of course, the Cardinals did not do that. They went with a different defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, and now Bettcher is over in New York with the Giants, moving them into a 3-4 scheme away from their previous 4-3 scheme. Now, that's actually a bit of an issue for me because if you're bringing in a new coach, I don't want you to change the scheme right now. This defense isn't bad. It doesn't need a drastic overhaul on that side of the ball. So I don't know if Bettcher makes the most sense for the Cowboys side of things. I think he'll be a head coach soon enough, but I don't think he's an ideal fit for Dallas. If you're looking for a defensive mind not on the Cowboys roster, Chris Richard, who we'll get to later, how about George Edwards, the Vikings defensive coordinator? Now, he interviewed for the Bears job last year, and he did coach for the Cowboys as well from 1998 to 2001. He's actually one of the oldest coaches on this list and becomes highly recommended by one Mike Zimmer. So Edwards, I think, could be a guy that maybe gets an interview, especially if you were trying to, rekindle some friendship there with Mike Zimmer, given that things didn't exactly end the best way for the Cowboys there. I think he makes sense for the Cowboys, but I think this is kind of my main overarching point here as we go through some of these. He'll make more sense for a different team because I think the Cowboys, and I know I do too, I would prefer an offensive-minded head coach. I think that's more important for this Cowboys team right now. The defense is in good shape. The offense needs help, be it either A, with Dak Prescott, or B, if you end up taking somebody else and moving on from Prescott. Either way, I think you need an offensive mind to help develop that quarterback, whomever it is, Dak or somebody else. And yeah, you can hire a new OC, but if he's good, he's just going to end up leaving in a couple of years. So I would lean towards more an offensive-minded coach. All right, next up, number 7, Jim Bob Cooter, the Lions offensive coordinator. Now, still very, very young, and he's actually surprisingly young despite having multiple years of NFL OC experience under his belt. Now, has helped improve Matt Stafford. That's a big check mark for me, and he fits that young offensive-minded coach template or whatever word you want to use there. Now, the big red flag for me is he still a little bit too young? I think that might be one of the red flags for Cooter. Now, he interviewed for the Lions head coaching job as well. Didn't get it, but Matt Patricia wanted to keep him on as the OC because Matt Stafford likes him quite a bit. So I don't think Cooter's one of your top 5, top 6 targets, but I do think he should be at least considered because he is one of those good young OCs, and there aren't a ton of those out there in the NFL. Here's another one, well, at least maybe another one, Matt LaFleur. Now, he checks off 2 big boxes for me from the coaching tree. Worked under Sean McVay, worked under Kyle Shanahan. Those are good things. That's a good mentor to have, or mentors if you're Matt LaFleur. Now, this is a very much high-risk, high-reward type of hire because LaFleur has been an OC for 2 years, but one of them was with the Rams where he wasn't calling the plays. This is his first year as an actual offensive coordinator with the Tennessee Titans. We've seen 3 games from them. It's been a mixed bag. They lost the first game, found a way to win with Blaine Gabbert and injured Marcus Mariota in week 2 and 3. So it's still a little early to declare Matt LaFleur the next big guy. He might be a year away from being the next Sean McVay or whatever you want to call him. It's a high-risk, high-reward type of hire. If you miss out on some other better names, I wouldn't mind it. I will not be surprised if he gets multiple coaching interviews this year. Before we get to our top 5, I still got some Cowboys t-shirts and hats to give away. Plus, once we get to 20, I'll give away some Cowboys tickets. So DM me on Twitter if you want the details. And again, these shirts and hats are provided by one of our sponsors, so you have to get signed up with them. But DM me on Twitter at what going down if you want the details. It's a good deal for you guys. Again, a couple more to give away. Not that many left, folks. All right, on to number 5. One guy I know everyone here knows about, Chris Rishard. He's only number 5 for me, and I'll explain why, because I have some bigger fish out there. And I think in the end, and this is maybe this is just me, I would rather find an offensive guy. And I love Rishard. I know that the Cowboys do and the players do as well. I think he'll be a good coach, a good defensive coordinator, a good head coach in the NFL. But here's my biggest concern. You hire Chris Rishard. Who is your OC? That's the biggest problem right now with the Cowboys. I think ideally, if you can make this happen, and it's easier said than done, you hire an offensive mind, whomever that is, and you keep Chris Rishard as your defensive coordinator. I list him as defensive backs for now, but he's almost a de facto DC. So I love Rishard. If and when Garrett does get fired, he'll be the interim if it happens during the season. And then after that, don't be surprised if Rishard ends up being a guy that seriously gets interviewed for a head coaching job by the Cowboys because the staff likes him. And by staff, I mean front office. So Rishard there at number 5, a very legitimate option there for the Cowboys. I know a lot of you guys like Rishard, and if the Cowboys did go that route, I wouldn't be all that upset either. Here's a bigger name for you, at least bigger from the college ranks, Lincoln Riley. And there's a lot of buzz about Riley out there. I've seen quite a bit of it on Cowboys Twitter about hiring Riley because, look, if you want the next Sean McVay, I mean, here you go. Young, almost too young, super innovative, a fantastic offensive coach, has that offensive mind that you want if you're the Cowboys, for example. But there are some red flags and some risks here. I know you want an offensive mind, but Riley's young. He's very, very young, and he's a good college coach. How would that translate, though, to the NFL? It's just a different beast. Now, other college coaches, be a Jim Harbaugh, a Chris Peterson, a David Shaw, who's never going to leave, of those guys, I kind of think Riley is the most coveted college coach out there right now. And by the way, multiple NFL teams spoke with Riley this offseason about incorporating some of his offense into the NFL game with their own team. So let me know if you guys would be okay with hiring a college coach. I'd be okay with it, but again, it would be a bit of a risk. So that's why Lincoln's only number 4 behind one other offensive mind that I very much like. That is John DeFilippo. Now, Filippo has spent some time with the Browns, which doesn't count for a negative because they're terrible, and that's coaching a losing battle there. He was great last year for the Eagles, playing a big role in that offense as the quarterback, so it really helped develop Carson Wentz, and is now the OC for the Minnesota Vikings. And DeFilippo interviewed for jobs last year. In fact, he actually interviewed for both the Cardinals and the Bears jobs last year, and I kind of thought he was going to get one of those head coaching jobs. And I wanted the Cowboys to hire him as their OC and fire Scott Linehan. But now he can come in and potentially, if again, this year continues to go well for the Vikings and the offense doesn't fall apart, DeFilippo will be, I think, one of the, if not the outright, most coveted coordinator in the NFL. Offensive mind, it's a good one. Very well regarded by the NFL in general. He'd be a good hire for the Cowboys, and I consider him the most realistic of the top targets. We'll get to 2 more names here that might not be the most realistic, but I love them. But first, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Cowboys120 for a 120% deposit bonus. What that means is, put down $100. They'll give you $120 for free to bet with. for a grand total of $220. You're literally playing with house money if you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Cowboys120. All right, time for my top 2 guys that might not be the most realistic, but you gotta try and or hope. Number 2, John Harbaugh. Now, this is only if he gets fired. But the Ravens thought about it last year. And if Baltimore misses the playoffs again, I think it makes some sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Baltimore did fire Harbaugh. If that's the case, sign me up for John. I would rather have John Harbaugh right now than Jim Harbaugh, mostly because I think John's a little bit more gettable than Jim, who I don't think is going to leave Michigan, especially not after this year. Now, the Ravens, again, did consider firing him last year. The one big red flag for me is that I would want to have Harbaugh find a better OC, but I've seen him do good work overall in Baltimore. I think he'd be a big, big upgrade over Jason Garrett. And, of course, at number 1, the number 1 top target who probably isn't all that gettable is Sean Payton. Definitely a long shot, but you know Jerry Jones would try. If and when Garrett gets fired, Jerry's going to pick up the phone and be like, hey, Sean, why don't you come back to Dallas, buddy? Now, the issue is Peyton's under contract, and you can't just hire a new coach from another team if they're the head coach. That's not how it works in the NFL. So you might have to get a trade somehow, which is very hesitant for me because I don't like trading away draft picks for coaches, even ones as good as Sean Payton. So he signed that 5-year deal after the 2015 season. But again, this is the guy that wanted Tony Romo and tried to trade for Tony Romo when he took over the Saints job. He wanted Tony over Drew Brees to start. So it's definitely a long shot. Jerry Jones would try. I don't know if it would actually happen, but Sean Payton's definitely my number 1 guy if and or when Jason Garrett gets fired. All right, so recap, if you missed any of the top 10 potential head coaches for the Cowboys in 2019. Dan Campbell, James Bettcher, George Edwards, Jim Bob Cooter, Matt LaFleur, and then into what I consider the really 5 guys I'd like. Chris Richard, I know some of you guys love him as well. Lincoln Riley is that young offensive mind who carries quite a bit of risk there as well. John DeFilippo is there at number 3. John Harbaugh is there at number 2, so a couple of Johns. And then Sean Payton, he also ends up being number 1. Maybe not the most likely outcome for those top 2 guys, but they'd certainly be fantastic hires by the Cowboys. So, folks, let me know. Who do you want to be the next Cowboys head coach? I'm pretty sure that most of you don't want it to be Jason Garrett still. So let me know in the comment section. Give me a name. One last time, no, it's not going to be Tony. It's not going to be Troy. It's not going to be Jimmy Johnson. And it's not going to be Bill Parcells. But let me know. I'll be sure to respond in the comment section. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for our next Cowboys Report.